Everyone, Vincenzo Calla here, and welcome to Let's Discuss Politics. Today, I'm glad to be joined by the Member of Provincial Parliament for Windsor Tecumseh and the Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Economic Development, Job and Trade, Andrew Dowie. Thanks, Andrew, so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Vincenzo, for having me on today. I'm just delighted to be here, a big fan of the show.
Well, thank you so much for your support. It's so great to have you here. Thanks for watching, and it's so great to have you as a guest today. So let's get started with this.
Oh, I can't wait.
So our first segment is called Andrew's Story, where we'll talk a bit about who Andrew is and his political history. So first off, I wanted to get started with, can you tell me a bit about yourself, your story, and how you got your start in politics?
Sure, I'd love to. Just my background, I'm a professional engineer. I worked for the municipal government in Windsor for most of my career, and it was my opportunity to have a job where I could help people every day. So my job was designing improvements to neighborhoods, whether that be their roads, the traffic conditions, the sewers, the municipal drains, and agricultural areas rather, and environmental protections. You name it, I probably did it. And I worked in this wastewater treatment plant as well. So I've got a pretty solid understanding of the permits that are involved. I worked on planning applications, so I know what we asked of the applicants, and I really got a sense of, okay, if I were in charge, would I make some changes? Obviously, there's a system for a reason, and regulations for a reason. Some of them exist for a good reason, but then sometimes those reasons go away, and it's not a bad thing to look at what you're doing and say, do we still need to be doing this? So in a nutshell, that's what really led to my interest. I mean, I've enjoyed taking part in student council back in the day at Lesource High School, and I was on the Senate, the University of Ottawa, as well as the Engineering Student Society, and the Residents Association, the Arbitration Board. So what really did it was my mom brought me to Ottawa one year. We're walking up Sussex Drive, and out was the Prime Minister's house. Like, oh, look at this! And then a car pulls up, and gates open. It's like, wow, is that the Prime Minister? And sure enough, it was. And so the gates didn't really close. Jean Chrétien came out and walked over to everybody and just wanted to have a discussion. I thought, wow, isn't this amazing? That the prime minister, as busy as he is, he cares, and he left a very lasting legacy on me as a young person. At the time, I think I might have been grade 8, and that I'd like to be a bit like him someday. And so fast forward. My job at the city of Windsor, I was called in to work for Mayor Eddie Francis. He seemed to like the work that I was doing, report writing, and so I helped him on economic development files for a couple of years. And after that, seeing him in action as one of the best salespersons I think I've ever seen for how our community could grow and thrive and be appealing, I thought, I'd like to try this out myself. And I became a town councilor with the support of my community. I was not known at all. I'd served on the community of adjustment in town and the library board, but really I had no profile. I went in just saying I want the experience of running a campaign and trying. And in the end, I had a good story to tell. Though I know government, I think I can provide improvements to your to the neighborhood, make measured, sensible decisions, having the best possible big picture viewpoint. And the people of my ward elected me, and then I was acclaimed the second time, so that was very nice. And so bring me to Queens Park here. We have some local issues that are pretty important. And I couldn't help but notice that having a government member was influential in how much support we received. from the government. Not to say it wasn't zero by any means, but having someone in your corner trying to help you out actively and making the extra effort really went a long way. And so with that, I thought, you know what, we need that in my community. We had the regional acute care hospital project that seemed to be going nowhere. They announced it in 2012-ish, and then just kept on getting bogged down in process. And but then lo and behold, Mayor Ford, shortly after I was nominated, announced that yeah, our government was actually going to get this back on track and get going with it. Then so that was say during the my candidacy. So that was like, wow, that actually happened. And so I give him full marks. There was no real political interests at play. My seat had not been PC in decades. 93 years in my hometown and about 60 something years in the western part of the riding. So it's been it was not a likely pickup, but you know what? I felt I needed to put forward a strong, positive voice in favor of our community, and that being a part of the government was the best way to achieve the goals that we had. We can't just yell and scream at people and say, why aren't you doing things better? I wanted to be in there actually collaborating to do things better as part of the government. That's the message that I brought to the door in my riding Windsor Tecumseh. And I was stunned on election night. I had earned the trust of my riding with about just under 46% of the total vote. So no one saw it coming, although we felt it. We felt at the door a little bit in about March that there was a lot of goodwill, and now we never knew that it would translate the way that it did. But I'm so grateful to the people of Windsor Tecumseh for putting their faith in me to be the representative and making sure that we're well taken care of within the provincial government. I am not going to let anybody down with this. I have a great opportunity to tell our story and to advocate well for us within this government. I am very appreciative of all the support that this government has given so far to help us out with case files, with constituent issues. But on the big stuff, we landed in vitro fertilization funding for the first time. We've landed $30 million plus for Windsor Regional Hospital on announcements that had been made a decade ago that there was no follow through with. So we're able to clean up a lot on our end, work well with MPP Anthony Liardi in the Essex riding, and Chatham-Kent-Leamington's Trevor Jones as well. So we have a pretty solid program underway. We're achieving things that were stuck, and we're giving our constituents a great opportunity to get their issues resolved through collaboration, through positivity, and making sure that they have someone in their corner who will be able to influence the decision once in a while. So I'm grateful for that opportunity.
Well, and there's so much that you said in there that I wanted to unpack, the election night victory and municipal politics, and so much that we'll continue to talk about throughout this segment and the following segments, because I have a few questions about that. But I wanted to know, because when I had read your bio and from what you had talked about, you had been in municipal politics for a long time. And you mentioned some of the reasons you ran provincially, but what ultimately made you decide that after a number of years on council and running and working in the municipal field to eventually make the jump to provincial politics specifically?
You know what did it for me? It's more of a style thing. There was an announcement in our region about the twinning of Highway 3. And the response that came from some of our local MPPs was not good enough. And that's we'd been waiting for this for decades. And like that, to me, that was like, you know what? If nothing else, I want to say thank you to this government for listening to us and for investing in projects that we've needed for a long, long time. Even though it may not be everything that we would want ideally, although in this case, I think from a technical basis, it was a sound decision to do so. They four-laned from Highway 3 from its current terminus to, and it's being built right now. It's going to go to really to Highway 77 or Ruthven rather. But saying thank you once in a while, it goes a long way. And that wasn't said very often. And I thought, you know what? That's not who we are from Windsor, Essex. We're collaborators. We're community minded. We work well with one another. And you know what? I wanted to say, you know what? I can be that person who will collaborate and who will work well with people I disagree with. And I've been doing it for years. I mean, we certainly didn't have unanimity on municipal council, but I was just delighted when I announced I had the support of every one of my fellow members of council who supported me, even though they, in a couple of cases, they carry memberships in other parties. So it was something that was important to me, that our voice be a positive one, that be represented, and then I really truly believe that working together and having a fulsome understanding of why decisions are made, and understanding, even if I don't accept the explanation or agree with it, there, my counterpart is going to come at it from there. There's a reason why, and there's certain things you fight and certain things you don't fight, and certain times to say thank you. And so I want to make sure that's what we have in our community, that we collaborate with those that want to work with us. And there's a lot to collaborate on. If we just lay down our swords and work together, we can do it. And I'll use my federal counterpart for an example. He's from a different party. Hi, Iric, if you're watching. I've had nothing but great experiences working with him on matters of mutual interest, and I love that opportunity. We can be colleagues and very much collegial without necessarily being part of the same political family. And I think absolutely we're going to achieve great things from all sides. And that's the gist of why I wanted to run. I would be different than anything else that would have been on offer in that election by being that collaborator and by being part of the government.
Well, and I mean this election, you already touched on it, but there were these massive pickups for the PC party in Windsor and these other areas that hadn't previously been conservative ridings per se, and even beyond that, just working together, like you said, sometimes cross party lines, sometimes cross different things for the betterment of your community is so important, and we're gonna touch on that now in the next segment. So the next segment is called Serving as an Elected Official, where we'll talk a bit about your community and your hopes as a newly elected official. So first off, before we go on to what you hope to achieve, I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite part about your riding and the people that you serve there?
You know what, Vincenzo? This is something that I think a lot of young people who grow up in Windsor and Essex County feel when they leave. I left for university, and the world was bigger than little old Windsor, and but miraculously enough, once you're gone, you truly miss it. There's something about the people of our community that is like no other, and that's our sense of community mindedness, our ability to pool our resources and get together to support something good, and a tolerance and respect that I would say is unparalleled. Even though we may be a bit, rough around the edges sometimes with our, with our language, we get a lot of influences, but something that's I noticed right off the bat when I finally, when I left for school, I noticed I was missing that I always felt back home in Windsor and Essex County, you are who you are and you're to be celebrated. And then I found as I traveled, there was a bit more hierarchy out there. And it just felt that way, whether it's realistic or not. I definitely felt it. And I think just some style, some cultural differences. And so that's my favorite part of Windsor Tecumseh, that we have a community spirit, that we have the sense that people will pitch in and assist. We can count on our neighbors and friends. It's not just us against the world, but rather it's us all together, and we're going to make things better within.
So now I wanted to ask you, what do you hope to achieve over the next 4 years as an MPP, as you're already a parliamentary assistant and I think it's economic development, right? Yeah, economic development, job creation, and trade. And what do you hope to achieve both for your community of Windsor-Tecumseh and as in this portfolio? What do you hope to achieve?
Oh, well, I'm grateful to Premier Ford and Minister Fedeli for enlisting me to be the parliamentary assistant to the ministry, because, quite honestly, one thing we haven't had down in our neck of the woods is stability in our economy, but that our government has been making many investments, including support for the $5.1 billion Next Star Energy EV battery plant. This is going to be transformative for our region. Have employment for a generation, and this is just so exciting, giving us hope, giving us the opportunity to compete on the world stage and be recognized. Where we once were, but we gradually lost a lot of what we used to have. So this investment repositions us and repositions our reputation for sure. And so having this portfolio is a dream come true. It means that I can celebrate what's great about our community, keep on working to build up the investments in our region, which dovetail extremely well with the driving prosperity strategy of the province, which is to exploit our natural resources that are currently in the ground, especially in the Ring of Fire, make an Ontario ecosystem for automotive and advanced manufacturing, where we can contain the industry all within our borders. We don't have to ship things off to be refined, and that's just so exciting to be a part of the solution that'll bring employment to Ontario and good employment too. And it's tailor made for our area. And I worked earlier at the city on economic development with Mayor Francis, so it was a nice return to something I was very familiar with, and can't speak highly enough of the experience. I mean, for my community, this is a transformative time. We are getting investments in the billions of dollars with the provincial government's support for our community and the things that we need. And so, number one, it's delivering these investments as quickly as possible. We saw, last government they started the ball rolling, and for reasons that are probably complex, some of these announcements didn't translate into action. And so I look forward to making sure that the investments that are announced are realized. And this is one, the Regional Acute Care Hospital. Our government already accelerated the timeline by a year. This has been my number one priority for our community, getting shovels in the ground as quickly as possible. So I'm delighted that the advocacy has been effective. We've knocked off a year, and anything else that we can streamline to get that project done, I'm going to be front and center doing it. And that goes for just about any provincial priority. We just got through an issue, or we're still going through an issue locally, where there's been some uncertainty as to whether funding will come for a service. And we don't have to guess anymore. I can go walk over, have a conversation, and get certainty. I guess that opportunity exists for anybody, but me having a good collaborative relationship means that it actually happens. And so we can actually aspire to getting some answers out of government, and we can make sure that our needs are always there as part of the consideration. So being there for the next couple of years till 2026, and being able to make sure our priorities are at the forefront and are part of the discussion is just something that we haven't experienced in our area for a long, long time, and especially it hasn't happened in the lifetime of most people being part of a PC government. So I'm just hoping to leave no stone unturned during my term in terms of opportunity for the community, and ensuring that we are well protected and well covered for no loss of opportunity in the delivery of public services from the province, and getting the supports that we need in place as quickly as possible.
Well, and also it seems really exciting that you are in a portfolio that will directly impact your community and that you can work on to directly impact it and through economic development. And it's just important to see that and sort of work together to better the community. And right now we're in a cost of living crisis, and people need jobs and people want to work, and being able to contribute to that is important. And that's something that every community in Ontario, and I'm sure yours just as much is struggling with and working through right now.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're going to go into the last segment now, which is called The World of Politics Around Us, where we'll talk about this world of politics that surrounds us. So first off, I wanted to ask you, who is or who was another politician or politicians that inspire you as an MPP now?
You know what? I would put top of the list one of my predecessors, Dave Cook, who represented Windsor Riverside between 1977 and 1997. He was the MPP that was here for my constituency when I was in grade school. He may very well be watching, and if so, hi, Dave. And But you know what? He brought a lot to our community, made sure it was transferred. We brought the first casino in the province of Ontario to Windsor, and so we had an investment there. He had cabinet portfolio when he served, and made sure that our needs were well heard. And he was respected amongst his peers. Once he completed his time as MPP, he was then brought into the EQAO as its chair by the then Mike Harris government. So he also had that ability to make sure that disputes in the chamber were certainly tempered by good relationships with his colleagues. And that's an art that I feel has been lost by so many in all parties and all sides of the house. So that's something I don't want to see come into my playbook. I'd like to be able to work with everybody. I really like people who put their names forward and advocate for their community. And stick to the issues, though. That character assassination is not necessary to make your point. I'd say it weakens the point. But Dave showed the way. And so I'd throw out a couple other names that are probably familiar to most of your viewers. Bill Davis. That he ran Ontario in a transformative way. He had nothing but respect in all corners, so much that it was probably distressing to run against him, because he was someone who was decently loved. He never really got the strong majorities in over his course of time, but maybe that was because he worked so well with other parties that people gave them all equal credit. I got the chance to meet him a few years ago. Just so modest. I said, you know what, I'm just so happy to be able to meet you. You left a strong legacy that I'd like to emulate someday. So that was a thrill too. And you know what, I'd point to my experience with Jacques Chrétien as well. Look, I just, from where he came from, and where he ended up, the kinds of things he did, and that he was fearless. I mean, I got to give him full marks for that. I really, he's someone I think anybody could look up to, and say, look at his success from all that he endured and where got him. And he never forgot that he was there to serve the people. And I got to meet him because he never forgot that. And he loved being with people. So I'd say those are the people who have really inspired me. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say Eddie Francis, who I worked for in Windsor, great salesperson, and taught me what it is to be a sound community representative and to always keep it at the forefront of what you do.
And so many people to inspire, and inspiration is just so important in politics. And finally, I wanted to ask you something I always like to end on is, what do you think is an issue that needs to be focused on more in politics?
I think the the issue that I'm finding is the complexity of our world, and it's not just government, but I think we've failed to recognize it in many ways in our policy making, and just because something takes longer, it doesn't mean you're getting the better outcome. It just means you're delaying things that we need. And I don't think that this issue does get enough attention. Yeah, our government has red tape reduction initiatives that are underway, and I look at many of them and I say, why is this still in place? I mean, it's great that we're dealing with it, but we've almost equated past practice to be gospel when you may have brought in a law for the express purpose of this is just maybe a radical example, but to facilitate the passage of horses and buggies along with more motor vehicles. Well, is the horse and buggy part of that legislation still relevant? And do you still need to do the environmental assessment for the horse and buggy? I'm being facetious with this, but we actually have a lot of that in our systems. And you're working on the other side of government. I know full well. I've applied for the different permits and duplicated work for the sake of saying I have the permit and going to 3 or 4 different agencies with the exact same information because they're all looking at the same thing. That just is this really the best way forward? I think working together and having some trust that in our professionals is the right approach, and I'd like to see more of it. I think it's very easy to kind of find the gotcha moment, and Auditor General's reports are great for that to show us how we can do better. But I think it's also brought in this element of risk aversion on all sides that delay and decelerate the implementation of the things that we need because there's a fear of being caught in that gotcha moment. And that's something that I think as politicians, we need to accept more risk, that things won't go the way we want them to go. But, the consequence, if you load up on regulations to stop that risk, you're really going to hurt more than you help by depriving the provision of services and depriving the provision of opportunity to our populations. So that's definitely where I think some focus ought to be put.
So that's all for today. Thanks, Andrew, so much for joining me.
No, I'm so delighted to be with you, Vincenzo. Thank you so much for having me. And to everyone watching, thank you for sitting through it all. It's such a pleasure to be here. And for anyone who wishes to reach me, you can email me, andrew.dowie@pc.ola.org. Our phone number at the office is 519-251-5199. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So feel free to connect. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Well, it was so great having you, and I'm glad we are able to have this discussion about so many things that I'm thinking already about how I'm going to be structuring my thumbnails and everything because we talked about so much today. But it was so great, and if you like this interview, make sure to go check out the other part with Andrew on YouTube for Top 10. If you're watching this on the time of the premiere, it'll be coming out on Friday. So to stay updated, make sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at VC Productions 25. Check out vincenzocalla.com, my website, and make sure to like, subscribe, and get notifications here on YouTube. Let's Discuss Politics is a VCalla production, so until the next video, I'm Vincenzo Calla, signing out.